Welcome back to Fanfics in a Nutshell. If you enjoy stories where one decision can completely change the fate of an entire world, make sure you're subscribed because this one only gets darker from here. Last time, they survived something they were never supposed to, and that should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Because sometimes, surviving the first disaster just means you've walked straight into the real one. The road doesn't feel the same anymore. Not after what just happened. The bodies are still there, lined up, covered, but not forgotten. The air carries that quiet weight that comes after violence, the kind that lingers longer than the battle itself. For a moment, it almost feels like they made it, like somehow they beat it. But survival and safety are not the same thing, and Shinji knows that. He doesn't say anything, there's no need. Everyone else is already holding on to the same fragile belief that the prophecy has already been broken, that fate has already been defied. Sasuke is the first to say it out loud. We changed it. His voice cuts through the silence, sharp, certain. He looks around at the survivors, at the ones still standing, as if the proof is right in front of them. We were supposed to die, and we didn't. Some of the guards nod. Others whisper under their breath, repeating the same thought like it might make it real. They want to believe it. They need to. Neji doesn't respond immediately. His eyes move across the battlefield, the injured, the fallen, the quiet aftermath that doesn't match the relief everyone is trying to feel. Did we? He asks. It's not disagreement. It's instinct. Sasuke frowns. You saw it yourself. 4 Jonin-level attackers. We're still here. That should be enough. That should mean something. But something about it doesn't sit right. Kimimaro says nothing, but his gaze sharpens slightly. He feels it too. The imbalance. The sense that what just happened doesn't match the scale of what was supposed to happen. Shinji doesn't look at any of them, because he's already certain. This wasn't it. This wasn't the disaster. This was just the beginning. And the real problem is that whatever Shion saw hasn't happened yet. The convoy doesn't move for a while after that. There's too much to deal with. Too many injuries. Too many bodies. Shinji works quietly, moving from one person to the next, his hands steady, precise. Chakra flows through his palms as wounds begin to close. Blood slows, breathing stabilizes. Even the older shinobi notice. Asuma watches him for a moment longer than usual. Not bad, he mutters, almost to himself. It's not just the skill, it's the calm. Most kids would be shaken after something like this. Most adults would be. But Shinji moves like this is normal, like he's already prepared for something worse. Asuma exhales slowly and looks away. That feeling again. Something about this mission is wrong. He already has a guess why. He just can't say it out loud. Not here. Not like this. Eventually, the bodies are gathered, the injured are stabilized, and the silence settles into something heavier. Then Sasuke speaks again. Even if we lost people, we still survived. That means something changed. This time, more people agree. You're right. The prophecy didn't happen the way it was supposed to. Maybe it was wrong. Hope starts to rebuild itself. Not strong, not stable, but enough. Neji still doesn't look convinced, but even he doesn't argue this time. Because logically, it makes sense. 4 Jonin-level enemies, an ambush, and they're still alive. That should have been enough to wipe them out, and yet, it didn't. Kimimaro glances at Shinji for a brief second. Shinji doesn't react, but inside, he's already rejecting all of it. Because if that was truly the event Shion foresaw, then it was too weak, too small, too survivable. Even without his full power, even without using his eyes, that level of threat shouldn't have been able to kill all of them, which means whatever kills them is still waiting, and it hasn't shown itself yet. Shinji. Asuma's voice cuts in. He gestures toward the forest. Show me where you took down that one attacker. Shinji nods. No hesitation, no resistance. They move quickly, stepping away from the convoy and into the trees. The deeper they go, the quieter it gets. Until finally, they stop. A patch of ground. A dark stain. Blood. But nothing else. No body. No trace. Shinji looks down at it calmly. I killed him here. Asuma crouches, examining the ground closely. His expression darkens almost immediately. His body's gone. Shinji tilts his head slightly. Taken? Asuma doesn't answer right away, but his silence says enough. He stands slowly, brushing the dirt from his hands. Leave this to me. That's all he says, but now it's clear. He knows. Or at least, he knows enough. And if he's right, then this isn't just an external attack anymore. This is internal, which makes it worse. By the time they return, the decision has already been made. We're not moving, Asuma announces. We wait for reinforcements. Some of the guards hesitate, but they don't argue. They've seen enough. And truthfully, they don't want to move either. Not yet. Not like this. Sasuke frowns slightly. You think they'll come again? Asuma gives him a small smile. You're still kids. I'm not letting geniuses like you die before you even get started. Meiji straightens immediately. We'll support you until reinforcements arrive. Asuma nods, then pauses. One more thing. His gaze shifts slightly toward the carriage. Someone should confirm with Shion whether her prophecy was actually wrong. That lands heavier than anything else, because even now, even after everything, no one is completely sure. Night passes slowly. Morning comes faster than expected, and with it, reinforcements. Kurenai, Aoba, more leaf shinobi. The mood lifts just a little, enough to move again, enough to convince themselves that maybe, just maybe, the worst is behind them, so they continue. Through the land of fire, past its borders, into unfamiliar territory. And for a few days, nothing happens. No attacks, no ambushes, no signs of danger, and that's when people start relaxing. That's when they start believing it's over. Until the messenger arrives. He doesn't slow down, doesn't greet anyone, doesn't even catch his breath properly before speaking. The ceiling grounds. His voice cracks. They've been attacked. Everything stops. What? Asuma steps forward instantly. The guard captain's face drains of color. No. This is bad, the messenger continues, panic bleeding into every word. If Her Highness doesn't return immediately, the entire world could fall into chaos. Silence, then movement. Fast, urgent, immediate. The pace changes instantly. No more caution. No more waiting. The convoy pushes forward harder than before. Because now, this isn't just about survival anymore. This is about something far bigger. Something that shouldn't have been touched. Something that was never meant to be released. And Shinji finally understands. The prophecy wasn't about them dying in an ambush. It was about what happens next. And as the convoy races toward the land of demons, he can feel it, getting closer. Something massive, something ancient, something that doesn't care about shinobi, villages, or fate. And when it arrives, there won't be a second chance. And the worst part, they're already too late. The horses are changed at relay stations so fast it barely feels like stopping. Dust rises behind the wheels. Guards bark orders. Shinobi move through the trees above the road like shadows trying to outrun something they can't even see yet. No one says it directly, but everyone understands the truth now. Whatever was sealed in the land of demons might already be free. Asuma keeps pace alongside the convoy, his expression set, his eyes constantly moving. Kurenai lands on a branch beside him, light on her feet, but even she can hear the strain in the guards below. They aren't just tired anymore. They're frightened in a way that goes deeper than fear of an ambush. What exactly is sealed there? She asks quietly. Asuma doesn't answer at first. Then, after a moment, he says, a monster. A demon called Morgue. Aoba glances over. A demon? That's what they say. And someone attacked the sealing grounds just to release that thing? Asuma's mouth tightens slightly. I asked the same question, but the guards from the land of demons never gave him the full answer. They talked around it. They admitted enough to make the threat real, but not enough to explain why anyone would be insane enough to do this. Maybe they were hiding something. Maybe they were afraid. Or maybe some truths are too dangerous to say out loud when the person meant to stop them is still trapped in a carriage, racing against time. Whatever the reason, Asuma says, this mission changed the moment we heard that message. Stay sharp. No one argues, not now. Below them, the carriage keeps moving. Inside, Shion is quieter than before. That silence bothers Shinji more than tears would have. He moves through the branches with Sasuke, Neji, and Kimimaro, keeping pace with the convoy while listening to the wheels below scrape over stone and packed dirt. Neji activates his Byakugan again, scanning ahead. What do you think this Morgue looks like? He asks, trying to sound casual and failing. Sasuke lets out a short laugh. It's too confident, too deliberate. The kind of confidence someone uses when they don't want anyone noticing the possibility that they're nervous too. What does it matter? He says. Could it be worse than the Nine Tails? Neji turns slightly. Sasuke smirks. I already controlled the Nine Tails with my Sharingan. If this demon shows up, I'll handle that too. That lands exactly the way Sasuke wants it to. The mood shifts, just a little. The fear loosens. Even Neji's expression eases, because once that comparison is made, it becomes hard not to think the same way. The Nine Tails is the ultimate measure in his mind. If Sasuke believes he can face something like that, then maybe this new threat can be overcome too. Kimimaro says nothing, but his silence isn't dismissal. Even he seems willing to let the idea stand. Sasuke notices. Of course he does. He glances towards Shinji looking for a reaction. Your medical ninjutsu is useful, he says, but this time I'll show you what the Sharingan of the Uchiha is really meant for. Shinji barely looks at him. Sure, that answer annoys Sasuke immediately, but Shinji is only half listening, because the entire time they move, he can feel it in the back of his mind. Not a sound, not a vision, just a pressure that refuses to leave. The prophecy, the convoy, the attack that came too early, the way everything still feels unfinished. The real threat is ahead. And the closer they get to the land of demons, the more certain he becomes. They pass through the land of rain, where the sky hangs low and heavy, and the road turns slick beneath the wheels. Then the land of birds, then the land of bears. That is where the terrain changes, the road narrows, the earth becomes rough and uneven. Cliffs begin to rise around them in broken walls of stone. The convoy slows, not by choice, because it has to. The horses can't fly, and the road ahead isn't made for speed anymore. Eventually, they reach the mouth of a canyon, steep walls on both sides, high enough to block out part of the sky, the kind of place where sound lingers too long and danger has too many places to hide. Asuma raises a hand. The convoy stops. The guard captain rides up quickly. Why are we stopping? Asuma looks ahead, then up at the cliffs. This terrain is wrong. I want to scout it. The guard captain's expression changes immediately. Not anger, not disrespect, just desperation. Asuma-san, please. This whole region is like this. If we stop to inspect every canyon, we'll lose days, maybe weeks. Asuma doesn't move. The guard bows his head slightly, voice tightening. We do not have that time. That is the truth. None of them can escape. Every delay feels dangerous. Every pause feels like a chance for something worse to happen somewhere ahead. Kurenai watches Asuma carefully. If we move cautiously, we can still get through. He knows that. He also knows that caution doesn't mean much if the enemy has already prepared the ground. For a few seconds, he says nothing. Then finally, fine, move. The convoy enters the canyon. Hooves strike stone. Wheels creak. The walls rise around them like a trap waiting to remember what it was built for. Shinji studies the cliffs as they move deeper in. This is bad terrain. Too narrow, too exposed, too easy to close off. He looks to Neji. Check the cliffs. Neji nods and activates his Byakugan immediately. The veins at his temples rise as his vision stretches through the stone and distance above them. Sasuke and Kimimaro grow quieter too, each falling into that battle-ready stillness that only appears when instinct starts speaking louder than pride. Above, Awoba's crows circle the canyon from the air. For a while, nothing happens. No movement. No chakra spikes. No sign of an attack. The convoy reaches the midpoint. Some of the tension starts to slip. That's when the sound comes. A sharp, panicked cry from above. Aoba looks up. His crows are falling. Not flying. Falling. Their bodies crash against the cliffside, dropping out of the air like something invisible just tore them down. Everyone, careful, he shouts. At the same moment, Niji's eyes widen. He had just lowered his Byakugan for a breath, but now it flares back to life, scanning the cliffs again. This time, he sees it. Small concentrations hidden in crevices, layered, spread across both walls. His voice cuts through the canyon. Explosive tags. The world erupts. A deafening blast tears through the cliffs on both sides. Then another. Then dozens more. The canyon shakes violently. Stone splits. The sound is so loud it stops being sound and becomes force. Massive chunks of rock break loose overhead. People scream. Horses rear. The entire convoy looks up just in time to see death coming down from both sides. Asuma slams his hands together and drops to the ground. Earth release. Earth-style rampart. The jutsu roars upward. Walls of earth surge from the ground, rising around the convoy in thick, reinforced slabs, forming a shelter just as the avalanche hits. Boulders crash against the earth barrier hard enough to shake everyone inside it. Dust pours through every crack. The impact keeps coming. Again, again, again. Inside the darkened shelter, no one breathes normally. Everyone is listening, waiting, hoping the next impact won't be the one that breaks through. Even Asuma's face is tight now, because this isn't a natural collapse. This is controlled, calculated. Whoever prepared this knew exactly how to force them into the kill zone. After what feels like forever, the crashing begins to fade, then stops. The silence afterward is worse. Asuma releases the jutsu. The earth walls crumble away. Dust drifts through the air. And when the view clears, the trap is obvious. Both ends of the canyon are buried under collapsed stone. The convoy is boxed in. Not crushed. Contained. That detail matters. This wasn't meant to kill them immediately. It was meant to keep them here. A figure appears above them. Standing at the top of the cliff, outlined against the light. The guard captain sees him first, and all the color drains from his face. You, his voice nearly fails him, you're the leader of the Yellow Springs sect. The man smiles down at them. He doesn't deny it. He lifts his arm slightly, almost like a priest greeting an audience. And all at once, more figures emerge along the cliffs on both sides. Dozens of them, faces painted. Bodies tense, weapons drawn. They look down into the canyon as if they've already won. Kurenai's eyes narrow. Akatsuki? Asuma stares upward and the answer becomes obvious immediately. The cloak. Red clouds. So the rumors were true. The Yellow Spring sect isn't operating alone. They're tied to something much larger, something far worse. Shinji feels the shape of the truth lock into place. That is the moment he understands. This is it. Not the earlier ambush. Not Root. Not four disguised attackers trying to grab Sasuke or silence him. This is the disaster. Because the man standing above them would never risk this kind of open assault against a convoy protected by Hidden Leaf Shinobi unless he already had what he came for. And if he has that, then Morio is already free. Neji goes rigid beside him. His breathing changes. Sasuke notices immediately. What is it? Neji doesn't answer right away. His eyes are fixed on the sect leader. When he finally speaks, his voice sounds wrong, too thin, too strained. His chakra, Sasuke's expression hardens. What about it? Neji swallows. It's enormous. How enormous? Neji's face turns pale. Bigger than Naruto's. That answer hits everyone around him like another explosion. Sasuke stares. Even Kimimara's eyes shift. Because all of them know what that comparison means. Naruto isn't just another classmate. Naruto carries the nine tails. And if Neji is saying the chakra above them feels even greater than that, then the thing empowering this battlefield is not something they can dismiss with confidence anymore. Shinji understands the difference immediately. Not stronger than the full nine tails, but maybe stronger than what Naruto can actually access right now. And that is still more than enough to terrify anyone who knows what that kind of chakra means. Above them, the sect leader spreads his arms wider. Dark purple tendrils spill from his body. They snake outward and attach themselves to the necks of the men standing beside him. The effect is instant. Chakra pours into them. Violent, rotting, wrong. The rogue shinobi on the cliffs shudder as power floods their bodies. Their chakra swells grotesquely, rising past normal limits, past reason, past what their own frame should be able to contain. Even from below, it becomes visible. The air around them distorts with it. Jonin-level pressure, dozens of them. Not through training, not through skill, through corruption. The sect leader laughs. Shion, he says, his voice echoing down into the canyon, your fate has finally arrived. Every eye turns to the carriage. Inside, silence. No movement, no answer. Shinji stares up at the man for one more second, then makes a decision. He steps forward, and his voice cuts across the canyon before anyone can stop him. If you want her, you go through me first. Everyone looks at him. For half a breath, even the enemy seems surprised. Kurenai blinks. Does he understand what he's saying? Aoba doesn't take his eyes off the cliffs. He should be able to feel that chakra too. Why is he not scared? Asuma clicks his tongue. He should be the one saying that. He should be the one setting that tone. And yet, somehow, an academy kid just did it first. Sasuke feels the sting of that immediately. He activates his Sharingan with a snap of chakra. Red eyes lock onto the enemy above. Too bad, he says coldly, staring up at the sect leader. You ran into me. And then the canyon explodes into war. War inside a canyon has its own kind of madness. There's nowhere to spread out, nowhere to breathe. Every sound hits stone and comes back louder. Steel on steel. Explosions. Shouts. The impact of bodies hitting the ground. Chakra flaring in tight spaces until the entire battlefield feels like it's vibrating. The first wave comes hard. Yellow Spring sect members poured down from both sides of the canyon, diving into the convoy with all the recklessness of men who no longer care what happens to their own bodies. Before Morio's chakra touched them, most of them wouldn't have meant much against experienced Leaf Shinobi. Genin, Chunin, dangerous in numbers, but manageable. Now they hit like monsters wearing human skin. Their jutsu are sloppier than a Jonin's. Their movement is cruder. But none of that matters when they have enough chakra to drown the field. Fire bursts against the canyon walls. Wind blades scream through the dust. Earth spears tear up from below. The guards of the land of demons are thrown into chaos almost immediately, struggling just to hold formation as the enemy crashes into them from above and from the front at the same time. Asuma reacts first. He doesn't waste a word. Chakra blades flash into his hands and he tears straight into the nearest attackers with the kind of brutal efficiency only a veteran can manage. One slash, then another. A body drops before the others even understand he has moved. He doesn't stop. He drives forward through the center of the battlefield like he's trying to cut a road out of the trap by force. Kurenai is already at the carriage. Her landing is light, controlled, but her eyes are sharp now, fully awake to the scale of the threat. She places herself between Shion and the oncoming wave and begins weaving genjutsu into the chaos, catching one attacker, then another, breaking their rhythm just long enough for the guards to put them down. Aoba moves differently, quieter. He positions himself near Sasuke, scanning angles, reading motion, throwing precision into the spaces where brute force won't be enough. Two more leaf shinobi split to the front and rear of the convoy, trying to stop the canyon from collapsing into total disorder. It's a plan made in seconds. Asuma takes the head. Kurenai protects Shion. Aoba watches Sasuke. And everyone else. Everyone else survives if they can. Shinji sees all of it while fighting two sect members at once. One comes at him with a wild overhead strike, strength amplified far past his actual control. Shinji slips half a step to the side, lets the blade pass, and drives a counter into the man's ribs hard enough to break balance before finishing him with a clean slash across the throat. The second attacker throws a jutsu immediately, overcompensating with power. Shinji ducks low, feels the heat pass over his head, and closes the distance before the man can recover. Fast, efficient, no wasted movement. But even while fighting, his eyes keep moving. Assessing, counting, measuring. This should be overwhelming. It is overwhelming, but not enough. That thought lodges in his mind and refuses to leave. The pressure on the battlefield is enormous, yes. The enemy numbers are ugly. The chakra they're working with is far beyond what they should have. But if this is meant to be the absolute death point Shion saw, then something is missing. This still feels like a first collapse. Not the end. On the cliff above, Asuma reaches the sect leader. That's the real strike. He has already judged the battlefield the same way any veteran would. If the power is flowing from one source, then the source has to go down first. It's the only way to break momentum quickly enough to save the people below. He launches himself upward and attacks without hesitation, chakra blades cutting in a bright arc toward the man's throat. The sect leader doesn't dodge. He barely even reacts. His right arm lifts lazily, and dark purple tendrils explode outward from his body. They move too fast, too many, too alive. Asuma's blades slice through the first set, severing them cleanly, but the tendrils writhe in the air for only a moment before regenerating from the cuts, their edges splitting and reforming into new things. What should have been dead matter becomes movement again. What should have fallen apart keeps coming. Asuma's expression changes instantly. He cuts again, again. Every strike lands. None of it matters. The tendrils keep growing back, snapping at him from angles that shouldn't exist, forcing him off balance and backward across the cliff. The sect leader looks at him with open contempt. Insect. That single word lands harder than it should. Asuma freezes for just a fraction of a second, and the world inside his head changes. His heartbeat turns heavy. Every old resentment, every buried failure, every private bitterness surges to the surface all at once. The mission becomes pointless. The risk becomes unbearable. The people behind him become burdens. The life he has chosen suddenly feels absurd. Why is he here? Why does any of this matter? Why keep fighting for a world that keeps throwing its own people into graves? It all hits at once. Despair, regret, anger, meaninglessness, not as thoughts, as truth. His hand lifts, the chakra blade angles toward his own throat. Below, no one sees it happen clearly. They only feel something shift on the cliff above, like the pressure in the air has turned rotten. Then lightning tears through it, a sharp burst, a scream of chakra. A body moving so fast it seems to puncture the moment itself. Kakashi appears in a blur of crackling light and drives a Chidori straight through the sect leader's chest. Blood sprays across the cliff. Asuma snaps back to himself so violently it almost feels like being dragged out of deep water. His own blade is less than an inch from his neck. Another second and he would have cut himself down with his own hand. He stumbles, breath rough. Kakashi! Kakashi lands lightly, though even from a distance the strain in him is obvious. Anko appears nearby with her usual dangerous sharpness, and Shino arrives with that same unreadable stillness that somehow makes every battlefield feel more controlled just by his presence. Relief hits the canyon below in waves. Reinforcements. Real reinforcements. For the first time since the ambush began, it looks possible that the field can still be recovered. The sect leader drops to one knee. His chest is pierced clean through. Blood pours down over the red cloud cloak. Asuma stares at him, still breathing hard, and says what everyone wants to believe. That should be the end of him. For one brief moment, even Kakashi seems willing to believe it. Then the man starts laughing. It begins low, broken, wet with blood, and then it rises into something manic, something ecstatic. He pushes himself upright. A hole through the chest should have killed him. Instead, he stands. "You really thought," he says, voice shaking with amusement and hate, "that you could kill me that easily?" Kakashi's entire posture changes. "Move!" That warning comes just before the transformation. Massive tendrils erupt from the sect leader's body, no longer thin or serpent-like, but monstrous now. Thick as tree trunks, dark purple, writhing with a life that feels more like hatred than chakra. They lash outward in all directions, smashing stone, splintering trees, ripping apart the cliffside itself as Kakashi and the others scatter to avoid being crushed. The tendrils grow larger and larger. The leader clutches at his own face as if the thing inside him is tearing upward through flesh, and his laughter becomes uglier, less human with every breath. Witness my power. Then the cliff explodes. The sound shakes the canyon floor. Dust and broken rock rain down from above as the tendrils burst higher into the air, climbing, twisting, blocking out the sky in a writhing mass of dark purple force that no one below can mistake for anything normal anymore. The battlefield pauses. Not because the enemy stops attacking, because everyone sees it. Kurenai looks up first, and for the first time her voice loses all steadiness. What is that? Aoba's face goes pale. So that's Morio. Even some of the sect members stare upward in stunned silence, as if they too weren't prepared to witness this much power at once. Shinji's stomach drops. He turns to Neji immediately. What's happening up there? Neji's Byakugan is fixed on the cliff, his face drained almost white. It's coming out of him, he says, and there's something close to disbelief in his voice. That monster, it's coming out of his body. That is the moment everything locks into place for Shinji. Not just the spirit, not just a fragment, complete. If Morio is emerging like this, then both the spirit and the physical body must already be free. The seal didn't partially fail. It broke completely. This is no longer a dangerous mission. It is a historical disaster in the middle of happening. And then the ground starts trembling. At first it feels like distant impact. Then it grows. The cliffs shake. The earth cracks. Stone warriors begin rising from the canyon walls and the surrounding ground, one after another, then dozens, then so many that counting them becomes useless. Massive humanoid forms peel themselves out of rock and stand in rows that stretch farther than the eye can follow. Ancient, silent, relentless. Weapons of war waiting only for movement. The sight breaks whatever remained of the convoy's composure. Some of the guards don't even scream, they just stare. Because there are some enemies that announce death so clearly the body no longer knows how to react. Shinji doesn't waste a second. He cuts straight through the panic and runs to the carriage. Inside, Shion is trembling so badly she can barely breathe, hands over her head, eyes shut, like she's trying to make the world disappear by refusing to see it. Shion? His voice reaches her. She looks up. The second she recognizes him, all the fear she's been holding together cracks. She throws herself toward him without hesitation. Shinji, I'm scared. I know. He lifts her onto his back in one motion and turns immediately. Hold on. Then he looks to the others. Cover me, we're leaving now. Kimimaro moves first, no hesitation. Bone erupts from his body into blades and hardened armor as he charges ahead, carving a path through the nearest sect members with terrifying speed. Sasuke and Neji fall into position on either side of Shinji, almost instinctively, their job clear without needing explanation. Protect the escape line, protect Xian, protect the only path left. Around them, the canyon is collapsing into two wars at once. The battle against the sect and the rise of something far worse from the earth itself. Kurenai and Oba see what Shinji is doing immediately. They don't call him back. They don't question it. They shift their own positions instead, cutting off the nearest pursuers and buying seconds. Only seconds, but on a field like this, seconds are enough to separate the living from the dead. The climb out of the canyon is brutal. Loose rock, constant attacks, stone warriors beginning to move. But the gap is there, and Shinji takes it. One step, another. Then the top of the cliff. Then the forest beyond. For half a breath, it feels like they might actually make it. Then a figure drops into their path. Black robes. Mask. Stillness sharpened into intent. Shinji stops at once. He knows what this is before the man says a word. Root. Even now. Even here. Sasuke steps forward on instinct. I'll take him. No, Shinji says, sharp enough to stop him. Take Shion and go. Sasuke doesn't like that answer. He almost argues. But there's something in Shinji's tone this time that leaves no room for pride. Neji and Kimimaro grab Shion and move, disappearing deeper into the forest. Only when they're gone does Shinji look back at the masked shinobi. Your target is me. The man answers without emotion. You already understand. Shinji glances once toward the sky, where the dark mass of Morio's power is still visible beyond the trees. Even now? A mission is a mission. You die today. That is the ugliest part of Root. Not the secrecy, not the masks, the emptiness, the way they can witness the world falling apart and still move like tools obeying a line already written. Shinji exhales once. Around them, the ground starts shaking again. The stone warriors are rising here too, more of them. Too many. Their forms break through soil and roots in every direction, surrounding both Shinji and the Root assassin in an expanding circle of silent stone. For the first time, the assassin's posture shifts. Just slightly, because now even he understands what this means. There is no clean kill anymore, no controlled battlefield, no mission route out, only survival, and even that may already be gone. Shinji looks past him into the trees. Shion. He has to get to Shion. That decides everything. He breaks contact instantly and launches himself away, no longer interested in fighting Root at all. Stone warriors move to intercept him, but the moment they close in, a red light flashes from his body. The bell charm. Shion's gift. Priestess power burns through the nearest warriors in a clean beam, reducing them to collapsing rubble that does not regenerate. That detail matters immediately. These things can come back from ordinary destruction, not from this. The path opens. Shinji takes it. Behind him, the Root shinobi tries to do the same with Ronin jutsu and speed, smashing through one stone warrior, then another. But everyone he destroys begins knitting itself back together. When he leaps to clear the ring, a storm of stone spears erupts upward and tears him back down. Shinji doesn't turn to watch the end. He doesn't need to. The screams tell him enough. Ahead, deeper in the forest, the battle sounds return. Closer now. Messier, which means the others have already been caught again, and whatever is waiting there is about to turn this disaster into something even worse. The sound reaches him before the scene does. Metal. Stone. A sharp cry cut off too fast. Then the heavy cracking noise of something larger than a human body smashing through the trees. Shinji pushes harder. The forest is choking with stone warriors now, their bodies forcing themselves out of the ground in ugly, relentless waves. Every direction feels hostile. Every shadow carries movement. His killing intent detection is still firing so often it has almost become useless, drowned under the sheer volume of danger pressing in from all sides. A spear of stone cuts toward his blind side. He twists just in time. Too close. Far too close. Another one comes from the opposite angle, then another from ahead, forcing him to keep moving, keep cutting, keep trusting instinct even while instinct itself is being overwhelmed. This is the problem with a battlefield like this. There are too many threats, too much hostility. At some point, warning stops being guidance and becomes noise. He lands on a thick branch for half a second, breath tight, eyes scanning ahead. That's when he hears it clearly. The others. They've been intercepted, and from the sound of it, badly. Shinji launches forward again. He breaks through the trees and lands in the middle of the battlefield just in time to see how close everything came to ending. Shion is on the ground, frozen in terror. Niji is still standing, but barely. A stone spear has torn through his left shoulder, leaving one arm hanging useless while he fights with the other through pain that should have already dropped him. Sasuke is down, blood on his face. More blood soaking the front of his clothes. For one awful second, he looks dead. Only Kimimaro is still properly holding the line. Bone blades flashing in pale arcs as he drives back wave after wave of stone warriors trying to crash in around them. Neji sees Shinji first. Shinji. His voice is rough now, strained from pain and exhaustion. Help Sasuke. Shinji is already moving. He drops to Sasuke's side and checks the injuries fast, hands steady even while the battle keeps crashing around them. The worst wound is the one across the abdomen, deep, ugly, and losing too much blood too quickly. The others matter too, but not yet. If this one isn't stabilized first, nothing else will. What happened? Shinji asks while chakra gathers in his palms. Neji forces himself to stay upright in front of them. The stone warriors surrounded us. Sasuke tried to break through. He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. The damage says the rest. Shinji presses glowing hands over the wound and starts sealing torn flesh as fast as he can without being sloppy. This isn't full treatment. This is battlefield medicine. Stop the blood. Close what can be closed. Buy enough time for the body to keep going. Sasuke groans. Then his eyes open. Pain hits him immediately, and frustration lands right behind it. Damn it. His voice is weaker than he wants it to be. Those things, they just keep coming back. Don't move, Shinji says flatly. You lost too much blood. Sasuke hates hearing that. Shinji ignores it and turns towards Shion. And the forest itself lashes out. A huge dark purple tendril tears through the trees from the shadows so fast it barely even looks real. There's no warning shout in time, no clean dodge, no proper reaction window. Not from Niji, whose senses are dulled by exhaustion. Not from Kimimaro, who's pinned down. Not even from Shinji's own detection, drowned under the flood of constant threat. The tendril hits him head on. Shinji. Everything happens at once. The tendril coils around him, lifts him, and slams him into the ground with enough force to shake the entire clearing. The impact is brutal. Earth splits, dust explodes outward. For a heartbeat, nobody moves. Because there are some hits that look final even before the dust settles. Shion breaks first. No. She lunges toward the impact point, panic completely overriding thought. Niji catches her with his good arm and drags her back. Don't. Let me go. Sasuke tries to rise on instinct, but pain rips through his body so hard he collapses again, rage twisting his face into something raw and helpless. Kimimara's eyes harden. And then, for the first time in the battle, even his composure shifts. Not because he has time to grieve, because if Shinji is gone, then the entire shape of this fight changes immediately. Sasuke's voice breaks into a scream. "I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you." His Sharingan spins, and under the force of terror, rage, and that ugly flash of helplessness that only comes when someone important is taken away right in front of you, it changes. 2 Tomoe becomes 3, the world around him sharpens, movement slows, fear turns into violent clarity, but the timing is almost cruel, because awakening more power doesn't change what just happened. Or at least, that's what everyone thinks. The truth is buried inside the dust. Shinji isn't dead, not even close. The moment the tendril's fangs hit him, the bell charm Shion gave him flared to life. Priestess power surged around his body and formed a protective barrier just before the impact could actually crush him. The slam still rattled him, still dazed him, still hit hard enough to leave his thoughts ringing for a second. But it didn't break him. It didn't even touch him. Inside the fading dust, Shinji looks up through the barrier at the monstrous fangs pressing down against the shield and realizes something cold all at once. So this was it. This was the death Shion saw. Not a duel, not a noble last stand, a blindside. A single overwhelming strike. If not for the charm, he would already be dead. The tendril slowly retracts, realizing the hit failed. And when the dust clears, Shion sees him standing, alive. The relief that hits her is so violent it almost looks like pain. "Shinji." Sasuke exhales like his lungs had stopped working entirely. Niji's eyes widen. Even Kimimaro, still cutting through the nearest stone warriors, shifts slightly as the balance of the battlefield corrects itself. Shinji returns to them in one motion. He glances at Shion first. "Thanks for the charm." His voice is calm, but he means it. Without that gift, the prophecy would have ended right there. Sasuke gives a weak, angry grin from the ground. "I knew you wouldn't die that easily." That's bravado. But beneath it, the fear is still there. Shinji notices something else too. Sasuke's eyes. 3 Tomoe now. He files that away instantly, because it matters, but not yet. Right now, there are bigger problems than Sasuke's growth. Neji is staring into the trees. He's coming. This time, nobody asks who. The stone warriors part. Not randomly. Deliberately. Opening a path through the clearing like soldiers making way for a king. And then he appears. The leader of the Yellow Spring sect steps out from the forest shadows with a hole still torn through his chest where Kakashi's Chidori pierced him. Blood should have taken him. Damage like that should have ended him. Instead, he walks forward like a corpse being carried by something much stronger and much crueler than life. Dark purple chakra spills around him in visible waves. Massive tendrils drag and coil behind him. He doesn't look like a man anymore. He looks like something wearing a human shape out of habit. Every one of them feels it at once. Monster. The word arrives in all their minds at the same time. The sect leader smiles at Shion. "Now do you understand?" he says softly. "No one can stop our destiny." Shion recoils. Sasuke clenches his jaw hard enough to hurt. Neji plants his feet anyway. Kimimaro lowers his center of gravity, preparing to intercept even though he can probably already tell what kind of gap exists between them and the thing in front of them now. Then the air fills with steel. Kunai wrapped in explosive tags fly in from multiple angles. A heartbeat later, the clearing erupts. Explosions hammer the sect leader from every side, smoke and fire swallowing his body in an instant. And through the smoke, leave shinobi land one after another. Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai, Aoba, the others, all of them battered now. Dusty, cut up, breathing harder than before. Kakashi's right leg is injured badly enough that he's favoring it on landing, but he's still here, still moving, still focused. For 1 second, it looks like the tide might actually be turning. Then the smoke peels back. And the sect leader is still standing. Not staggered, not damaged, standing. His cloak hangs intact around a body that should have collapsed several times over by now. "Pointless," he says, almost lazily. "None of you are leaving this place alive." Asuma stares at him, and the weight of the earlier conversation crashes back into him. The prophecy, the certainty, the feeling that the earlier survival was too clean to count. His voice comes out lower than intended. So it really can be changed. That lands harder than any attack. Because now someone older is saying it, someone experienced, someone who isn't supposed to sound uncertain. Neji hears it and something inside him sinks. Sasuke hears it and rejects it immediately, almost violently. No, he forces himself upright. Pain tears through him, but he ignores it. No way. His voice rises, fed by fury and desperation and that fresh new clarity from his evolved Sharingan. "I'm not dying here. Not here. Not before revenge, not before the future he still believes is owed to him. He charges. Every adult in the clearing reacts at once. Sasuke, stop, but he's already moving. There is a part of him that still believes this can become another miracle, another impossible moment where Uchiha eyes bend something monstrous into submission. It happened once with the Nine Tails. In his mind, that means it can happen again. The sect leader watches him come with open amusement. What a foolish child. His hand lifts. A tendril launches. Fast. Too fast. Kakashi moves. Asuma moves. But they are too far away. Neji shouts. Kimimaro lunges. Shion squeezes her eyes shut. Shinji starts forward and still knows he won't make it in time. Sasuke sees the fangs coming straight for him. And in the space of one frozen instant, all the confidence burns away. He understands. Too late. Too reckless. Too weak. The instinct that rises in him now is not heroic. It's human. Someone save me. Then a new figure appears between them. Not from the side. Not from behind. Just suddenly there, as if the battlefield itself has torn open and placed him in the exact space where death was supposed to land. Golden light bursts outward. A skeletal giant forms around the newcomer in an instant, vast, glowing, impossibly dense with power. It catches the incoming tendril with both hands and rips it apart like tearing rotten cloth. The entire clearing goes still. Even the sect leader freezes for a fraction of a second. Because this is not normal power. This is not Jonin-level talent. This is not even something any of them expected to see on this battlefield at all. The giant's golden bones tower over Sasuke, shielding him completely. And beneath that protection stands a cloaked figure in black marked with red clouds, an Akatsuki cloak, but not the same as the sect leaders. This one wears a hood. Face hidden. Presence controlled. Deliberate. Mysterious. Sasuke stares up at him, confused and breathless. Who are you? The figure turns just slightly. Enough for Sasuke to catch the eyes beneath the hood. And what he sees there sends a colder shock through him than the tendril ever could. Mangekyo. Uchiha eyes. But not ordinary ones. These are deeper, stranger, ancient-looking in a way that doesn't make sense on a body this young. Sasuke's voice nearly fails him. You had the Mangekyo Sharingan? The figure lets out the smallest breath of amusement. Then the truth settles over the clearing in a way none of them are ready for. The Shinji who has been traveling with them was never the real Shinji at all. A shadow clone has been fighting beside them this entire time, conserving chakra, holding the line, buying time, and the real Shinji, the real one, was elsewhere, finishing the fusion he needed most, the very thing he gambled everything on, the answer he believed could break the prophecy, and now he is here, right on time. The golden skeletal Susanoo rises higher around him. The air changes with it, the battlefield changes with it, and for the first time since this nightmare began, everyone understands that the side Moryo is fighting against no longer looks the same either. For one suspended second, nobody moves. The forest is still full of stone warriors. The sect leader is still standing there like a nightmare stitched into human shape. Moryo's chakra is still pressing down on the battlefield hard enough to make breathing feel heavier than it should, and yet everything has changed, because until now, everyone on this field has been reacting, surviving, enduring, trying to hold on. But the moment Shinji's real body appears under that golden Susanoo, the balance shifts in a way even the enemy can feel. The sect leader sees it first, not the cloak, not the posture, the eyes. Those eyes tell him immediately that the child he thought he understood is no longer the same existence he was dealing with before. And that is the real danger of it. Not just power, control, precision. The kind of power that already knows where it wants to cut. The golden skeleton around Shinji rises higher, then changes. Bone thickens. Muscle forms over the frame. Armor grows over that in layered golden plates, until what stands over the clearing no longer looks like a half-formed defense but a complete war construct. In one hand, the Susanoo forms a massive golden blade, and the light of it cuts across the battlefield so sharply it almost seems to divide the rain-thick air around them. Sasuke is still staring. He should move. He should retreat. He should say something. But for once, even he doesn't know what to say. Because he understands enough of the Uchiha to grasp what he's looking at, and not enough to understand how Shinji got there first. Kakashi narrows his eye. Asuma's expression hardens. Kurenai says nothing at all. And the sect leader, who has looked down on everyone since this battle began, finally takes one cautious step back. That is all Shinji needs to see. He moves. The golden Susanoo swings. One slash. That is all it takes to carve through the sea of incoming tendrils and tear open a path through the writhing dark mass surrounding the sect leader. Purple limbs crash apart in chunks, severed cleanly, flinging corrupted flesh and chakra across the clearing. The force of it is so overwhelming that even the stone warriors nearest the impact are thrown off balance. For the first time since Morio fully emerged, the monster is the one being pushed backward. The sect leader recoils, then snarls, and more tendrils explode outward in retaliation, faster, thicker, more numerous than before. They crash against the golden Susanoo from multiple angles, trying to bind it, crush it, overwhelm it through sheer volume. Shinji doesn't rush. That is what makes it worse for his enemy. He doesn't fight like someone panicking in front of a monster. He fights like someone testing a problem he already intends to solve. Inside the hood, his gaze sharpens. He has waited for this, risked everything for this. While the clone held the line, while the convoy walked deeper into danger, while fate closed in one step at a time, Shinji was betting that finishing the fusion would matter more than anything else. Now he has his answer. It matters, but not enough to be careless. The Susanoo tears through another wave, then another. The clearing becomes a storm of gold and black-purple. Corrupted limbs and divine-looking armor colliding hard enough to splinter trees and shatter stone warriors that wander too close to the exchange. And then Shinji uses his dojutsu. For an instant, the battlefield seems to pause around him, a flash in his vision, a future seen and discarded. Another one, then another. The knowledge hits him cold. If he keeps fighting this the obvious way, he loses. Not immediately, not dramatically, but inevitably. Because raw destruction is not the answer here. He can cut Morio, crush Morio, tear through the sect leader's vessel again and again and again. But brute force alone will not kill something that has already fused itself this deeply into the vessel carrying it. That realization lands hard, not because it surprises him, because it confirms the one thing he didn't want to be true. This battle cannot be won by power alone. Shion matters, the priestess matters. Without her, Morio cannot be truly ended. The sect leader feels the hesitation and tries to use it. He begins to retreat into the forest, pulling his tendrils back while the stone warriors surge forward to cover him. He understands now that he cannot overpower what just arrived. So he changes tactics immediately. Withdraw, regroup, preserve the vessel, come back later. It would have worked against almost anyone else. But Shinji has already seen the path. His left eye focuses, and black fire is born. Amaterasu erupts across the sect leader's body without warning, not thrown, not launched, simply appearing where Shinji decides death should begin. The flames catch instantly. They race across cloak, flesh, tendril, and chakra with terrifying hunger, clinging to everything they touch with a purpose that ordinary fire could never imitate. The scream that tears out of the sect leader this time is different, not arrogant, not theatrical. Real. Morio's tendrils thrash violently, trying to tear the black flames off by sacrificing their own limbs, but Amaterasu is merciless. What it touches, it keeps. What it keeps, it burns. The clearing recoils from the sight. Even the leaf shinobi take a half step back, because everyone on this battlefield understands instinctively that this is not ordinary ninjutsu, this is punishment. Dark fire spreading through darker corruption. The sect leader drops to one knee, then rises again, then stumbles as Morio fights inside him, trying to contain what cannot be cleanly contained. Tendrils slam into the earth. Stone warriors surge wildly in all directions, as if the entire control structure behind them is convulsing. Shinji does not let up. He drives forward behind the Susanoo and cuts through the remaining mass of tendrils, forcing the burning vessel farther and farther back. Every retreat path closes. Every defensive layer comes apart under golden steel and black fire. The sect leader tries one last desperate counterattack. The tendrils all gather at once, condensing into a monstrous strike aimed straight through the center of the clearing, toward Shion, toward the one presence that truly threatens Morio's existence. Kakashi moves. Asuma moves. Kimimaro and Neji brace. But Shinji is faster. The Susanoo shifts. The blade comes down in a single divine-looking arc and cleaves the entire attack apart before it can reach her. And in that moment, everyone sees the truth clearly. The prophecy was never broken by surviving the first ambush. It was broken here. By strength. By preparation. By one person arriving at exactly the point where fate expected them to fail and refusing to let the story end that way. Shion sees it too. Through fear, through shock, through everything else, she sees the difference between surviving beside someone and being saved by them. The black flames keep burning. The sect leader's body finally begins to fail under the combined pressure. The vessel twists, collapses, rises again only halfway, and then tears open beneath the sheer strain of containing Morio while Amaterasu eats through everything it can. The stone warriors slow, then stagger, then begin collapsing in place as the sustaining force behind them fractures. One by one, their bodies crack and crumble back into lifeless rubble. The rain starts to fall harder, soft at first, then steadier. And in that dim gray wash of water and smoke, the battlefield finally starts to quiet. No one celebrates immediately. They're too tired, too hurt, too aware of how close this came. Kakashi stands with one hand lowered near a kunai, still ready in case the thing rises again. Asuma keeps staring at where the vessel fell apart, as though he still expects the prophecy to try one last time. Sasuke looks from the dying black flames to Shinji, and something ugly and complicated settles in his chest. Awe, frustration, humiliation, drive, because the power he just witnessed was Uchiha power, and it was not his. Shinji, meanwhile, doesn't bask in any of it. He looks at Shion instead. That alone tells the full story of how he sees this fight. The enemy was never just a monster in front of him. It was the outcome threatening to reach her. Once the worst of the battlefield stills, the return to the canyon feels unreal. They walk back through broken stone, shattered warrior remains, scorched earth, dead sect members, and the wreckage of a mission that should have killed them all. But it didn't. Not this time. The surviving guards from the land of demons start clearing the blocked passage with the least shinobi's help. Some of them are crying while they work. Others laugh in that half-broken way people do when they've already accepted death once and then somehow been handed more time. The convoy moves again, slower now, wounded, exhausted, but alive. And when they finally reach the shrine in the land of demons, something loosens in the entire group at once. Not triumph. Release. The kind that only comes after carrying death beside you for so long that arriving alive starts to feel unreal. Some of the guards collapse to their knees. Others embrace each other openly. The prophecy that had hung over everyone like a sentence finally feels broken for real. Sasuke, of course, tries to act untouched by all of it. Hands in his pockets. Voice casual. I still don't get why everyone was so scared. Shion hears that and turns sharply. If the prophecy was broken, she says, it wasn't because of you. That lands exactly where it should. Sasuke clicks his tongue, but before he can argue, his gaze shifts toward Shinji again, toward the one person on this journey who just proved what it actually takes to stand above fate. And for Niji, the lesson cuts even deeper. All his life, he believed destiny was a cage, a mark, a decision made before you were born, but now he has seen something he cannot explain away. A future that should have happened, refused. A death that should have landed, stopped. And behind all of it, the same image remains in his mind. A figure beneath golden Susanoo armor, looking down at a monster like the outcome had already changed. That image doesn't leave him. It won't leave Sasuke either. And that is the real consequence of this battle. Not just that they lived, not just that Morgue is driven back, but that everyone who witnessed Shinji here now understands the scale of what is beginning to emerge around him. He is no longer just another gifted child. No longer just a calm academy genius with strange instincts and medical talent. After the land of demons, that illusion is gone. Now there is fear around his name, respect too, and wariness. Because once people see a child bend a prophecy until it breaks, they stop thinking of him as a child at all. By the time they return to the hidden leaf, the silence around Shinji has changed. Before the land of demons, people looked at him the way villages always look at gifted children, with curiosity, with expectation, with that easy confidence adults have when they think talent still exists inside a safe box. Not anymore. Now there's caution in some of those looks. Questions too. Too many things happened too quickly. A mission that should have ended in total collapse somehow came back with survivors. Akatsuki's shadow was found behind it. Morgue, a name that should have remained buried in old fear and ritual, resurfaced in a way no one in the village can comfortably ignore. And somewhere inside all of that chaos, Shinji's name began surfacing more often than anyone expected. Not publicly, not officially, but enough. Enough that jonin start speaking more quietly around certain reports. Enough that old men in positions of power begin measuring the future a little differently. Enough that children who stood in that canyon never really look at him the same way again. Sasuke feels that changed the most. Not because anyone says it to his face, because he saw it himself. He saw the difference between confidence and overwhelming force. Between talking like fate can be beaten, and actually arriving at the exact moment fate closes its hand, then forcing it open. That memory doesn't leave him. Neither does the humiliation of it. He trains harder after that. Harder than before, harder than anyone around him quite understands. Because the problem is no longer abstract, it has a face now, Shinji's. And for Sasuke, that makes it personal in a way pride never lets go of. Neji changes too, but more quietly. What haunts him isn't Shinji's power, it's what that power means. He lived with the idea of destiny for so long that he learned how to think inside his shape. The seal on his forehead, the hierarchy of his clan, the certainty that some people are chosen to stand above others before either of them ever get the chance to prove anything. That way of thinking built itself into him so deeply it started to feel like law, Then he watched the prophecy fail, not weaken, not blur, fail. And now there's a fracture in the foundation of his world that refuses to seal back up. Kimimaro, meanwhile, reacts the way he reacts to almost everything important, by becoming quieter. He doesn't waste words praising Shinji, doesn't ask for explanations, doesn't pretend the battle didn't matter either. He just folds the result into his understanding of the world and keeps moving, which somehow says more than most people's speeches ever could. And Shion? Shion's life does not go back to normal after the Land of Demons. It can't. She was already someone burdened by expectation, prophecy, ritual, and a nation that needed her more than it understood her. But now she has also lived through the moment where everyone around her was supposed to die, and didn't. That changes a person. It changes the way she looks at fear, changes the way she looks at Shinji too. Because before all this, he was someone difficult to understand. Calm, detached, irritating in exactly the way only competent people can be when they act like competence is obvious. Now he is the reason the future in front of her no longer feels absolute. And that matters more to her than she can explain cleanly. Life inside the academy keeps moving because villages are cruel in that way. The world almost ends, and then the next morning someone still expects attendance, discipline, progress, training. Children who walk through war are still asked to stand in lines, complete drills, think about team assignments, think about evaluations, think about whether they are becoming useful fast enough. If anything, the pressure only gets worse. The three-man team assessment system tightens the atmosphere across the academy. Nobody wants to be the weak link. Nobody wants to be the one whose name gets attached to failure before they even become genin. Students train more, push harder, compete with more desperation than they did before. The mood sharpens. Even Shion starts forcing herself through extra physical training because now she knows what happens when she falls behind the world trying to protect her. And then there is Yakumo. That is where the next shift begins. Because Yakumo is not just another academy student with pressure on her shoulders. She is a fragile heir carrying an entire clan's collapsed pride, born with terrifying genjutsu talent and a body too weak to support the future everyone wants from her. Shinji sees more than that almost immediately. He sees the thing hidden deeper, the darkness inside her, the monster called Ito, something born from pressure, pain, and distorted potential, something with the power to twist reality through illusion. That matters to Shinji for several reasons at once. First, because power like that is too dangerous to leave unattended. Second, because it confirms something else for him. His eyes have changed in ways that even he is still learning to understand. Some of what he sees now doesn't come only from the eternal Mangekyo. There is something else layered into his perception, something newer, stranger, and far less familiar. So while the village believes the danger passed with the Land of Demons, Shinji is already moving into the next phase, quietly, carefully. The kind of carefully that matters when Akatsuki is growing more serious, when the village is beginning to respond to that threat with something close to wartime speed, and when even one mistake can expose too much too early. Later confrontations make that reality impossible to ignore. Hidden Least Response Network begins closing faster whenever Akatsuki appears. Jonin converge quickly. Tracking units move efficiently. The village is no longer treating Akatsuki like a distant rumor, it is adapting. That means Shinji has to adapt too. And he does. When Yakumo's situation erupts, he doesn't solve it with raw intimidation alone. He does something smarter, more dangerous in its own way. He recognizes her. That is the key. Yakumo's deepest wound is not just fear, not just weakness. It is the terror of being unseen, unvalued, reduced to a failed heir, a burden, a talent with no future because her body cannot carry what her bloodline promises. Shinji cuts straight through that. He tells her she has value, real value, enough that a pair of rare eyes means less to him than what she herself could become. That recognition opens her heart almost instantly, and even Ito, the darker existence bound up in her, responds to that shift. Instead of crushing Yakumo, or letting the monster define the outcome, Shinji folds both of them into his orbit and gives them structure, direction, and a place under his command. That is the real pattern emerging now. Not just that Shinji is strong, not just that he can win impossible battles, it is that he is beginning to gather dangerous things around himself and make them part of something larger. Yakumo, Ito, hidden dojutsu, Akatsuki, ties, village, suspicion. The list keeps growing. And the more it grows, the less this feels like a story about one gifted survivor trying to stay alive. It starts feeling like the opening movement of someone building toward a conflict the rest of the world still cannot see clearly. That is what makes this volume dangerous. Not just Morio, not just the prophecy, not just the canyon. Those were the loud disasters, the visible ones. But underneath them, something else has been taking shape the entire time. Shinji is changing. The people around him are changing too. Sasuke is no longer just chasing revenge. Now he is chasing a standard. Neji is no longer able to believe in destiny the same way. Shion is no longer just a prophet trapped by fate. She has seen fate miss. Yakumo is no longer just a fragile genius on the verge of collapse. She has become a piece on a much darker board. And the village itself is beginning to tighten, harden, and prepare for wars that are still approaching from just beyond the horizon. That is where this chapter of the story truly ends. Not with peace, not with closure, with movement. With pressure building in every direction. With one disaster survived, only for the shape of the next one to start revealing itself. Because this was never the kind of story where one victory fixes everything. It was the kind where one victory makes everyone important step into the next stage faster, and now they have. The prophecy failed. Morio fell back. The convoy returned. But the world Shinji is moving through has only become more dangerous since then. Akatsuki is watching. The village is adjusting. Hidden powers are surfacing. And the children standing at the center of all this are running out of time to remain just children. That is why this isn't an ending. It's the moment the board gets wider. The moment the pieces start revealing what they can really become. And the moment this story stops feeling like a survival tale and starts becoming the rise of something far more difficult for the shinobi world to control. If you enjoyed this volume, stay with me for the next one. Because the prophecy may be over, but the real war around Shinji is only getting started. To be continued.